Hello everybody, my name is Poison Ducky, and let's have another Total War Warhammer 2 replay. Now I'm going to be playing as the Tomb Kings, one of my all-time favorites, them and Chaos. Can never go wrong with them, or at least in my opinion, in terms of playstyle and just fun overall. Tomb Kings gotta be my go-to. So I'm going to have a front line. Let's go slow motion so it's more cinematic. I'm going to have a front line of pretty standard Tomb Guard. Very good units. They're pretty pricey for what they do. 750 gold just so you have a frontline unit that doesn't crumble immediately. But it's something that's very needed in the Tomb Guard roster. Tomb Guard, only 50 armor for like an advanced infantry unit, so not exactly the best unit price pound for pound, but you know, you use the tools that are given to you. So I'm going to have front line of Tomb Guard backed with a few spearmans just to defend my center line of skeleton archers. Now, skeleton archers are pretty cheap, only 400 something, but they do a good amount of damage, especially against Empire matchups, low armor matchups like Wood Elves, Empire, High Elves. They're cheap. They do the job, and most undead factions, like, well, we compare them to the vampire counts. Vampire counts don't have any range components at all, so a little bit of range pressure from the Tomb Kings is always a little nice. Now, over here in the right flank, now this is going to be kind of a themed army like I usually do. I'm going to have two Necropolis Knights. Now, one with halberds and one with just the regular spears and shields. So these are resistance toward missiles. They have bronze shields, while this one has halberds and has anti-large capabilities. Over way far on the left flank, it's going to be some more Necropolis Knights. This side has halberds, and this is going to have the High Queen Khalida herself on her Necroserpent. Now, usually when people bring her, it's for the Blessing of Asaph, which increases the armor piercing and reload ability of all ranged components in your army if she stands near them. Well, if you just take it off of her, she's in a it costs like 200 gold if you take off that one area buff around her. She just becomes a really good duelist. She's one of the few good duelists in the roster of the Tomb Kings, as most of them are like hybrid casters, which are not terrible. Like Cetra, not terrible in combat for sure. Cetra's actually very good. The only problem, Cetra is so expensive. So I just bring a Lich Priest of Nekahara, because if I play the Tomb Kings, I'm going to bring their unique lore, and it's the lore of the desert. Nekahara is just a fun one. I love their anti-large bonuses, and I like their ability to lower melee attack and melee defense really, really effectively. Now, last thing in my army that needs to be introduced is going to be the Scorpion Legion. Nothing special, just poison plus spears. A good combination. It's a classic. It will work, and it'll work time and time again. Now, my opponent, on the other hand, is going to be the mighty Empire. Now, Empire is going to go with a pretty standard build. He's going to have a front line of state troops, swordsmen, and just a very cheap front line. He does have them chevroned up, though, if you notice. So they're going to be better than normal swordsmen in general. Like, they have slightly better stats. Like 80 leadership on a swordsman, you don't see that very often. Well, they are standing next to an Empire captain, of course. Empire captain, he's going to be the support and the morale boost that this army needs, because we all know that Empire infantry are not good at holding the line. He's going to have two mortars that are going to be bombarding my Tomb Kings. Like, my main mortars are only really good against infantry, and they're only good against low armored infantry at best. So it's a good matchup for them, actually. The Tomb Guard only have 50 armor, which is kind of terrible for the price. So mortars will do well. Interesting pick by my opponent, and his lord, his general himself, is going to be Karl Franz, the anti-large hunter with his rune fang and his on Death Claw himself. He's a staple in every single Empire matchup, and very good in the Tomb Kings matchup as well. On the right flank, he's going to have some Empire Knights, and hidden, he's going to have the Royal Arthuric Griffites. You know, you're average, not they're average, they're above average of anything, but like they're very powerful. It's the staple in Empire matchups. Demigryph Knights with halberds. They've been good since Warhammer 1, and they'll probably stay good until Warhammer 3. Empire Knights on the left, and he is going to have some hidden Demigryph Knights in the woods. I don't see these. They're going to have halberded. I don't see them. And of course, he's going to have a Bright Wizard, because everybody knows that Tomb King's units are mostly, well, their lords at least, are very susceptible to fire damage. So it's kind of annoying that they have a fire weakness, but they don't have regeneration. So almost everybody brings a lore of fire. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into this replay. I'm going to be charging forward. I only have archers as my ranged component, while I see mortars coming down. Now, the mortars are going to be targeting my Necropolis Knights, which is not a great play on his part, to be completely honest. Mortars don't do any armor-piercing damage, or very little. And Necropolis Knights actually have a decent amount of armor at 90, so they're not going to take any beating from this. Now, he is going to change his fire over to my left flank, with a fireball being sent at my High Queen Khalida. Luckily, I do have the Necropolis Knight's body block for me, because High Queen Khalida getting hit by a fireball is quite devastating. He's used 2 fireballs so far. 1 hit Khalida, 1 hit my Necropolis Knights with halberds. And I'm just going to be repositioning. I do notice the demigryphs with halberds at this point, and I realize, oh, that's dangerous. I see right here, the troops have uncovered hidden foes. I realize, oh, that's demigryph knights with halberds. Whoop! Let's not fight them. So I'm just going to be dancing around, skirting. I'm not going to engage the demigryph knights. That would be a terrible play by me. Now, over on the right flank, I believe my opponent is having some micro issues of some sort, as I'm just going to wrap around these Empire Knights. He doesn't realize that he has Empire Knights right here. They're kind of standing still, and I'm going to get a pretty decent charge into them. Now I'm going to get into the back line. I'm going to get some. I'm going to do a hammer and anvil, except a hammer and anvil with Necropolis Knights. You don't see this, so the front are going to be normal Necropolis Knights, while the back are the Halberd variant. And these Empire Knights will be destroyed rather quickly. With that, they're routing already. Now, my opponent reacts in turn with the mighty Royal Arthur Griffites. That's going to be quite dangerous, and I'm going to have to get out there very quickly. Unfortunately, the mass of all these units are going to get a lot of my Necropolis Knights stuck. Luckily for me, Necropolis Knights do have poison, so they're going to at least slow them down while one unit can retreat. Over in the frontline engagement, swordsmen, unsurprisingly, are going to lose to the Tomb Guard. Tomb Guard are just they're very good against low armor infantry, and they have high DPS for a unit that really you wouldn't expect high DPS out of. Now he's going to use these halberds, demigryphs, to try to break the charge on my Tomb Guard. And Tomb Guard don't have a charge bonus; they have a charge bonus of 8, so it's almost non-existent. He's going to break the charge. He's going to try to take a melee combat against Tomb Guard. Now, these are not Tomb Guards with halberds, so they won't do amazing against these demigryph knights. But against infantry, all those models hitting you, and especially he's not even attacking, he's doing a move order. So they're getting stuck, and the Tomb Guard will get a bunch of attacks onto the demigryph knights without any retaliation. Now, the infantry do push up to fight my Tomb Guard, but it's a little too late as I send in my Necropolis Knights to kind of apply that poison and clean up the damage. Now, Burning Head is going to go off here, but I do move out of the way just in time, and they only just graze my skeleton archers. I'm going to use a spell here, the Incantation of Desiccation, which decreases melee attack and defense, which is really insane. I think it's a very underappreciated spell. It's just a very decreasing both, and if it's upgraded, it decreases melee attack by 40-something, which is really fun. But Carl Friends getting into the battle, and my Lich Priest along with my Necropolis Knights. Now, these are the Halberd variant, so they will do well against the demigryph Knights and Carl Friends. Well, at least trade out. And I do get my Spearman units with poison into here, applying the poison, even though the Necropolis Knights, it's a little poison overlap, but these spears will do well to buffer the Carl Franz and make sure he doesn't get out without taking a good amount of damage. Now, High Queen Khalida herself is going to join the battle, which is always great. She is a duelist, and duelists are very good against in 1v1 kind of deals, or at least in like controlled environments. While Carl Friends does a lot of damage, High Queen Khalida will hold her own in a 1 versus 1 and at least take off a lot of damage. Now, my Tomb Guard are going to go into the back line of artillery mortars, make sure they don't get any more value than they could against my infantry or my Necropolis Knights. Unfortunately, he did fire my Necropolis Knights, so my archer fire is going on, and look at the cinematic view. I don't really see the Necropolis Knights used too often. Like, I see maybe one Halberd unit at best, and I don't see them use the normal Necropolis Knights. That's probably for good reason. They're probably not worth their cost. They have high mass, but I feel like their damage per second is just not big enough unless they have Halberds and fighting large units. Now we're going to have another fireball come in, and Carl Franz is charging into the hordes of skeleton archers, skeleton spears, skeleton everything with snakes to go along as well. And with that, Karl Franz is completely surrounded and will most likely die. Most likely. All of the support of the Empire is gone and crumbling, and with that, I believe the win is pretty inevitable. The artillery is down, the Empire Knights are down, the swordsmen are fleeing as for their lives in terror. All the debuffs going on, decreasing melee attack, and with that, it's going to be a win. Let's get into some unit comparisons. Alright, so my opponent didn't have a name. I'm not sure exactly how you do that. I'm assuming like you can do that with like a Steam thing where you change your name, but not sure how they did it, but he did it. Now, Khalida herself took quite a pounding. Khalida was like fighting Karl Franz for a very long period of time. They traded rather evenly. Khalida's better than what most people think in a one-on-one fight. Well, she is a duelist, obviously, but she loses to a lot of big lords like Kolek and Karl Franz, but she trades out evenly, which is nice. I think she's also cheaper than Karl, so that's a good thing on her part. Of course, you have the Lord of Nekahar to support her, giving her more anti-large bonuses. Spearmen did their job. They just defended their archers, made sure nothing really got into the back line, and they got to fire into them. Not many kills, but I did fire at the Griffites, which are armored, and just want to make sure their HP goes down and make them flee as fast as possible. Tombguard did amazing. I never expect much from Tombguard, to be honest. They look cool, but they're such an underwhelming unit, in my opinion, that they're really just there to hold the line. It's like if you think about it, I was really playing like a Bretonnia kind of playstyle with the Tomb Kings in this match, with a bunch of charges with the Necropolis Knights while the Tomb Guards held the line. Necropolis Knights did it very well. You know, the Necropolis Knights without halberds actually did decently this game. 71 kills. That's not as much as I expect. And of course, we took out those Empire Knights really quickly. Halberds did their job. They fought against Demigryph Knights. Demigryph Knights are just better in almost all shape and matter, so it's not too surprising that they lost most of their hit points. But trading with Demigryph Knights is always a plus, as Demigryph Knights are just the bane of any large unit in this game. Overall, I was pretty happy about this game, so good game to you, Mr. Blank, and I hope you guys like the video, and subscribe if you want more. I'll catch you guys later.